Hi, I'm Jordan Skidmore. I'm currently reading the Poppy War trilogy. I have cold fingers.
Okay.
And I'm acting up.
Hello, my name is Megan Alderson. I didn't get the role. I got another rejection.
I'm quitting the industry.
I'm acting up.
Hey guys.
Hey guys,
Welcome back.
It's back to reality.
Back to life. Back to reality.
That was actually it.
I know. We
I like
trained.
that.
we
That's
trained.
the only form.
Hi guys, how are you? Welcome back.
I hope you enjoy the episode with a guest.
Yeah. Oh my god. The next one that everyone hears will be the interview that we did, which was so exciting.
So email us, messages on Instagram. Yeah, if you want to be on it.
The podcast, if you have shit to say, because we've all got shit to say.
We've got a mic ready for
email,
your mouth to be all over it.
The microphone has stickers on it. It's ready.
Yeah.
I mean, Reese will attest that we've got a super professional setup that nothing ever goes
There's
wrong.
not wires everywhere.
Hey, nothing went wrong in the interview.
No, wait, it really didn't.
It really didn't.
I mean, I was shitting myself the whole time, making sure it was recording.
We are good at this.
I was
Also,
like
we have our first acting up excursion planned.
Yeah.
We're going on a little acting up road trip, and we're going to do some more interviews with some very, very exciting people. So, stay tuned. Stay tuned. Keep listening. Don't forget about us just yet.
let me just say, I'm going to be in a room full of models.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wait. So, yeah, Megan didn't get the role. I did a self-tape for an advert. Didn't hear back. We've got the... I think to put it nicely,
depression.
To put it nicely, we've got the January blues. Is where we're at.
It's like a dark blue right now.
It started off with
like
navy.
like a baby blue, and now it's like really fucking dark.
But everything's fine.
Yeah,
fine.
I didn't have a mental breakdown. I didn't.
Everything's fine. No, I haven't had one of those. Everything's fine. So we're here today to bring you a nice research-based episode. So, Megan, what are we doing today?
We're going to be talking about two successful actresses, but their success came from being a child actor.
Children in Hollywood.
Yes, children in Hollywood.
That's where we're at. It's a very interesting topic.
Yes.
Obviously, just going to put it out there right now. It is quite a intense topic to talk about. Both of the case studies we've picked have been through some very intense things. So I just want to say, before we start, obviously, trigger warnings in this episode for the sexualization of minors. There will be mention of sexual assault. There will be mention of body image, body dysmorphia, eating issues. Are there any you want to add?
They're very similar, these two people, as well, with their upbringing, especially with the relationship with their mums.
Yes, alcoholism, dealing with an alcoholic parent will come up. So yeah, obviously, as always, if any of these things are things that might trigger you or upset you, or you just don't want to hear about today,
look after yourself.
Get out of here.
Yeah,
go away. You don't need to
in the nicest way possible.
In the nicest way possible, lovingly, respectfully, get out. Because, hey, it's just a silly little podcast. Don't ruin your day over it.
Yeah,
go
listen to
a
the
nice
episode
time.
with Reese.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be a bit of triggering as well, but...
Nah,
not as
it's
much.
A good time.
Yeah,
it's a good time.
Yeah.
So, that's what we are going to get into today. We're discussing it because I think it's a interesting subject. I think a lot of people like us who get into the industry as adults, it's a side of the industry that I'm completely ignorant to.
I also think, like, when you listen about these two people's upbringing, we look back at it and go, well, how the fuck did they get away with that? But in that time, not even batting an eyelid. Whatever. I mean, they did bat.
I mean, you have to think in the grand history of humanity, the film industry is tiny. Like, it's just over 100 years old, which
and rules only got in,
and regulations and
they're
everything
still
in place
new
to protect children are, you know, they're still developing and changing even now, which we will get into. Megan, do you wish you'd been a child actor?
Yes and no. Like, obviously I wanted to do it, so I would have loved to have done it.
Yeah.
Who knows what that would have come with, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. It's very, if you had asked me as a child, if someone had approached me as a child, or if I had the opportunity to audition for anything,
could we
as
had
a child,
the passion to do it as well?
Child me have said yes? Absolutely. She would. I would have done anything. But looking back at it as an adult, I'm not entirely regretful that I didn't. I mean,
because you see a lot of child actors love it when they're a kid, and then they get into their 20s, they're like, I don't have the passion for it anymore. Like,
yeah. Which I think it's great. I mean, I know a few people who did some really amazing things as a child, and then were just like, yeah, well, I kind of like been there, done that, and now in my adult life, I want to do something completely different.
That's fair enough, yeah.
Yeah, I think as well, like, it was a situation that for me as a child was just like completely impossible. Like, as I say, I grew up in Somerset. Like, I didn't have access to the industry at all. So it's just not something that could have happened for me, really.
We weren't Nepo babies.
But
I'd love to be a Nepo baby, man.
Damn it. Fuck. But yeah, like, obviously child me would have loved to have done acting. Yeah. But adult me is...
I'm grateful I had a childhood, if you get what I mean.
Yeah. And like... the route that we went down of, you know, getting to 18 and then going off and being like, okay, now it's time to give this
go into the big world.
Yeah, I'm not regretful of that. Have you got any examples of child actors that or you know, they might not be children anymore, but performances by children that you think are incredible?
I do. Well, there's that one. Obviously, the people in Haunting of Hill House, all those kids were amazing.
Also the casting of those children. Yeah. To look like the adults in that is insane.
What's the one? Oh, you know, they have to blindfold themselves because they see the monster. Is it Bird Box?
I haven't seen that, but yeah.
Well, one of the kids in that, like, she starts crying and it's like, oh my God, because you know the mum doesn't love her as much as the son.
Yeah.
And the way this kid is like performing this, I'm like, oh,
really?
Damn, yeah,
okay,
so
maybe
good.
I do need to watch that. For me, the first one that always comes to mind is actually Natalie Portman.
Yes,
Natalie Portman in Leon the Professional. It was like her breakout role. She's like 11. Don't count me on this because this is coming out the top of my head.
She was young.
It's a film for adults. And her performance is just incredible and so incredibly sensitive and nuanced. It is a film that explores a very, very complex relationship between a grown man and a young girl and her attachment to him, and she just does an absolutely incredible job. Another example that I want to bring up is have you seen After Sun?
Yeah.
Frankie Corio's performance
so good.
in After Sun. Oh my God, it's incredible. And again, like a breakout role that she just absolutely fucking killed it. Like, it's gorgeous. If you haven't seen After Sun, you have to go and see it. Paul Mescal plays her dad, and both of their performances.
He doesn't run away in this one like he would when he goes on a date.
Ooh.
Have you seen that thing that's been going around?
He runs away.
Like, takes you on a walk, then runs away.
But yeah, incredible performance. So I think it is really important that we create art with children in it, and that children do have these opportunities.
Say, I've not actually seen this film, but I've seen it on TikTok. But Bailey Madison's performance in Brothers.
I haven't seen that either.
I've only seen a clip of it. Like,
I want to be in films. I haven't seen a single film in my life.
They're like on a dinner table, and this kid just starts bawling her eyes out and starts shouting, I think, at her brother. I might be making that up. But oh my God, the passion. Just enough like a kid to do that. Yeah. Really, really, actually really good.
Perfect. So I'm going to talk for a little bit, just basically like an idiot's guide to children we're going to look at Hollywood, especially because obviously that there is a whole film industry here and there are a lot of laws here, but both of our case studies do happen to be like enormous Hollywood stars. Like, we're talking about like a huge scale of fame. So that's where I'm going to sort of focus this. Okay, so I was having a look at a article called Children in Film. It's a research article by Ian Wojciech Andrews, which is on Oxford Bibliographies. And he just talks a bit about, he's looking at like the theory of children in film. So it gets quite intense, but it got some good information on it. So real and animated children have acted in film since the beginning of cinema in the late 19th century. The earliest movie children, a teenager and a baby respectively, actually starred in were live action films such as Watering the Gardener in 1895 and Breakfast with Baby in 1895 by the Lumiere brothers. There's early fantasy films by Georges Méliès, which were adaptations of fairy tales such as Cinderella and Little Red Riding Hood in 1901 and 1903. We've got Alice's Adventures in Wonderland as well in 1903. And obviously children have been starring in cinema every film ever since. So they've been there since the beginning. So it's also worth considering that children appear in films that are not for children. Yeah. Children are present in films such as The Taxi Driver, Terminator 2 Judgment Day, Salam Bombay, The Sixth Sense, The Matrix, Pan's Labyrinth. These not so G-rated movies suggest the incredible range of film genres in which children find themselves placed or exploited by Hollywood depending on your point of view, and confirm the equally incredible talents of the child actors used. They also imply that a children's film is not defined solely by the presence of a child. Taxi Driver is not a children's film, or the fact that it originates from a work of children's literature, for that matter. The Matrix, which constantly alludes to Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, is R-rated. Needless to say, the image of a child as innocent does not prevail. Children do indeed star in films, and have done since the early days of cinema, including those produced by kids themselves, which is another interesting topic. Yeah. But a firm definition is elusive. Not all films starring children are children's films. Yeah, he's very scholarly, but we love that. So that's all worth considering, and obviously mentions a lot of incredible works that feature children. Children in film are inevitable. Children want to be in films. Yeah. They should be allowed to be in films, but we need to make sure we protect them when they are in films.
Protect the babies.
I'm going to tell you a little bit about the laws of children in film. And I'm going to burp first. Notice how Megan's not doing any of the sight reading this week. Guys. She's still here, guys. I feel like, well, I'm fucking bored of Jordan's voice. Okay.
I can't sight read. I get really nervous, all right? And like my words mumble.
Okay, so this is all taken from the Library of Congress blogs. So this is an article called More Than Pocket Money, A History of Child Actor Laws, which is by Jennifer Gonzalez, and I'm so sorry, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name, but A.L.V. Rogers, I believe.
Better than I would do.
So, children have been in film since the beginning, and almost immediately it becomes apparent that the labor laws in Hollywood and places where these films were being made, laws don't tend to be made until they need to be made, basically. And when children started acting in films, there were no laws to protect them. So as soon as children began becoming huge in films, a question emerged, which was, what happens when a child earns more than both of their parents? Or, as was the case with Shirley Temple, what happens when the child is the main income earner for a family as large as 12 in her circumstance? Wow. Yeah. So courts are forced to grapple with the question, when a child is earning enough money to buy not just dollhouses, but Beverly Hills mansions, should the money belong to the employee, the child, or their parents? So a difficulty with employing minors is that it's assumed by law that due to their age, they're incapable of understanding the contents of a contract. Therefore, under common law infancy doctrine, codified by California in 1872, children have the right to disaffirm contracts that provide for more than just their basic needs, i.e. food, clothing, etc. So basically, a child under contract, they can break contracts immediately. They can just say, I don't want to do this anymore, because they're a child. They don't understand contracts. So that's why children don't get credit cards, because trust me, if credit cards companies could give children credit cards, they probably would. But they can't, because a child can immediately go, I don't want to do this. However, in the early film industry, people wanted to invest their time and money in, obviously, children, but the minor's right to disaffirm a contract would discourage them from doing so. So by the 1920s, Hollywood was under the studio system. Actors received long-term contracts from companies, approximately 7 years, and were paid millions of dollars to star exclusively in that company's movies.
Yeah.
However, obviously, as child actors could disaffirm their contracts whenever they wanted to, they could jump ship to a competitor who was offering better pay or better conditions under any circumstances. So they needed contracts that would prevent competitors from snatching the child actors. So in 1927, the California legislature responded to pressure from the film industry, and they added a law, basically, which allowed for the removal of the minor's right to disaffirm a contract once the contract was approved by the superior court of the county where the minor resides or is employed. So production companies such as Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer had only to find a judge to approve the contract for the minor to be legally bound to it. So essentially there's a big loophole where companies with enough money, with enough power, paying judges could basically make it impossible for the child to leave the contract. Later on, there's more problems with laws coming up as there's a case with a child actor called Jackie Coogan who was in a Charlie Chaplin film as a child. A quote about how famous he is: "I had the flu in New York and it pushed the president off the front pages." Like, he was that bitch. But it rocked the nation when Jackie Coogan turned 21, and it was discovered that Jackie's mother and stepfather had spent almost all of Jackie's $3 to $4 million income, leaving him financially destitute when he became an adult. In 1938, aged 23, Jackie sued his mother and stepfather and won, but after legal fees, Jackie was left with a mere $126,000 of his original fortune. So, incredibly easy for parents of these children it's basically their money. Well, it was back then. The state of California, after this incident, rushed through a legislation that became known as a Coogan Act. This granted judges the discretionary power to require that a contract set aside some of a child actor's income in a trust fund or savings account, only to be open when the child reached the age of majority. In addition to this, the money that was put away was to be taken from a child's net income after any managerial fees and other fees had been subtracted. However, another loophole appears. The parents of the child actors start charging their children managerial fees and other fees. So Judy Garland's mother requested to be paid a stipend that came out of her daughter's salary. In return, her mother promised to chaperone Judy and ensure that she obeyed the student's demand. The mother of Elizabeth Taylor took 10% of her daughter's salary in exchange for being Elizabeth's manager. Even parents who have their child's best interests at heart found it difficult to manage their children's wealth. 22-year-old Shirley Temple asked her father, who managed with difficulty the money she earned as a child, how much money was in her bank account, and he informed her that only $44,000 was left of the $3 to $4 million she had made as a child star. From 1995, the parents of Macaulay Culkin, so Home Alone, that guy, they wasted enormous sums of his income in a custody battle for their children, to the point where, according to a Manhattan Supreme Court Justice David Sachs, there was a real possibility of this millionaire and his family being evicted and left without any home.
Oh, wow.
And that is just so sad to me, because that is his money. He did the work. And to waste the money on a custody battle, like, it's traumatic enough for children to be going through the divorce and then being parents,
like, oh, we are poor now,
spending all your child's money on your own divorce. Are you kidding me? Crazy. So this Coogan Act remained unchanged for 61 years.
Damn.
So for 61 years, it was very possible and very easy for parents of child actors or anyone involved in the career of child actors to exploit the income and earnings of the children. 61 years later, revisions were made in the year 2000. So right as me and Megan came out of the womb, they were like updating Hollywood. So it's now necessary for a minimum of 15% of a child actor's earnings to be placed in a trust fund, no longer at the discretion of a judge. Additionally, the 15% must come from the child actor's gross income, not their net income, business terms, protecting it from being reduced by management or secretarial fees. Finally, the income earned by a child actor is legally recognized as child actor's property. It is no longer the property of a parent or guardian. Similar laws to California's were adopted in New York, the film industry's second favorite state, where 15% of child actors' incomes are deposited in what are known as child performer trust accounts. So,
Is that the same in Britain?
pretty much.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm kind of gonna leave it there. There's lots more about fair labor standards.
That was very well read, by the way.
Thank you so much. Children can be part of the SAG-AFTRA union as well, where they will be protected by the union for a fee. Again, same here with equity.
Yeah.
But as you can see, it's insane. So it took 61 years for people to be like, these children are being exploited for their wealth. Let's stop that. So yeah, that also is not to mention the actual labour laws regarding the children actually working. So how many hours they can spend on set. Yeah. What happens with their schooling. I thought it was just really interesting because it happens so often that, you know, these children are working, like they are doing a job, they're getting paid for the job and not seeing any of the results, which is crazy. But yeah, obviously in this country, we have very similar laws, and I can, you know, speak a bit more knowledgeably on this country where the, you know, I have a chaperone's license, so you know, I know,
don't.
But there are very, very heavily regulated laws on how many hours children can work, making sure they get their schooling alongside, making sure they get their money. So obviously at this point in time, things are pretty good. However, I will say nowadays what we're seeing more is less the exploitation of children in TV and film and more the exploitation of children in social media. So as I say, laws don't tend to be made until then they need to be made, until something bad happens, and then they go, oh shit, we should make a law about this. And we are living at a point in time where children on social media, children being exploited for family blogs and TikToks and all of this, children who are being monetized are not seeing the money. They are not having a say in what aspects of their lives are put on social media, and there are not laws to protect them.
Yeah, especially like YouTube and stuff like that. I don't know his name, but he like just reviews toys, and he's got like so many followers. I can't imagine how much you make.
It's got to be like a full-time job as well. Crazy.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Everyone needs to know what's going on.
I know. We actually are intelligent people who do research.
I don't know if I'm part of that. Hi, it's my time to speak. We're gonna
I've let Megan back in the room.
Hey, I was trying to knock. I was like, let me in, please. We're gonna talk about case studies. That's what I've been told to talk about.
Well, I'm not going to talk about case studies. That's what we're doing.
Yes.
We've each done a case study.
Yes. Mine is on Drew Barrymore.
And I am going to look at Brooke Shields.
They have like very similar childhoods. Similar but different.
Yeah. And also, they're friends now.
We are friends now.
It's lovely.
I've got one near the end of my research of when Brooke went on Drew's talk show.
Yeah, cute. So it'll all come full circle. So yeah, these are two women who both at the peak of their careers were like that bitch in Hollywood. I mean, Brooke Shields.
Oh yeah.
Her level of fame was insane in the 80s. She was everywhere. She was that fucking bitch.
And then being sexualized at such a young age as well.
Exactly. Obviously, you know, these are two extremely conventionally attractive, beautiful, able-bodied, straight white women, you know. But those are the kind of people that Hollywood was promoting. Like, you know, the experiences of actors of any other kind of minority is extremely different and difficult for other reasons. You know,
we could have like a whole episode on that as well, and we will make an episode on that.
Yeah, but we picked these women because they are extremely outspoken about their experiences. You know, it's nice to be able to talk about someone's life story, having heard it from them. So part of the reason I chose Brooke Shields is because literally last year, she released a documentary. It's called Pretty Baby, the Brooke Shields story. It's on Disney Plus. I really recommend it. So, you know, it's nice to be able to speak on her life, knowing that it's her that I've got the information from, essentially, as much as it can be. And they're also
so well spoken in what happened in their life. Like the way that they were speaking to each other, when I'll go into it a bit later, they don't blame anyone, but they understand.
Yeah.
And they know that they wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Incred. So,
Jordan, off you go.
I'm going to talk about Brooke Shields. So, the reason that I picked Brooke Shields, not just because of her insane success. Obviously, this is very much before mine and Megan's time. But Brooke Shields came to mind, obviously because of her documentary, but because I came across Brooke Shields when I was like,
I think the first
15?
movie I saw her was, is it Blue Lagoon?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the first movie I ever watched.
Yeah, and I watched Blue Lagoon because it was popping off on Tumblr.
Oh, really?
Like I don't know how I came about it. I was on the front lines of Tumblr during the whole, from like 2012 to 2015, like Arctic Monkeys, The Neighborhood, like fucking me. So
I don't think I had like Tumblr once,
but
once.
I still have Tumblr now,
and that's nothing to be embarrassed about.
I know.
Say that with your chest, bitch. Good.
I have Tumblr. Okay, I'm coming out as a Tumblr user. Fuck. There's good fan fiction on there, Megan.
Yeah, well, you can send it me.
And there used to be porn on there, but then they took it off. Anyway, yeah, so Brooke Shields. So I came across Blue Lagoon, a film that I will talk about in a bit, on Tumblr because people were romanticizing it insanely. And I was a teenager myself. And yeah, I watched the film and I kind of loved it. And I haven't watched the film since. And I will say that any of the films I'm about to talk about, I actually haven't seen. Having watched the documentary and learnt about the films, they're not really films that I want to watch. Yeah. So we will get into that. So obviously I did watch the documentary. That's where pretty much all of my information is from. Again, I really, really recommend it. It's an ABC documentary, which you can find on Disney Plus. So Brooke Shields was born in 1965 on May 31st. And it's really important to note that fame then versus now is completely different. Nowadays, there are millions of celebrities. Social media has brought a different type of fame to the forefront. Yeah. Whereas back then, there were very few celebrities, and the celebrities that they were massive. Everybody knew Brooke Shields. From the second she popped off, everybody knew Brooke Shields. She was the face of the 80s, basically. So she started modeling at 11 months old in ads, commercials, etc. So literally very much from the beginning, her mum was putting her into acting and modeling jobs. She basically never knew life without doing that. Like and she even says that sort of she kind of just thought everyone did that. Like she didn't really think too much about it.
Yeah.
So when she's 12 in 1978, she starred in the film Pretty Baby by Louis Malle, which obviously her documentary is named after. So this film contained nude scenes which were shot when she was 11.
Was she actually nude in it?
Oh. Nude scenes shot when she was 11. You would not find that nowadays.
No, absolutely not.
She was in the Blue Lagoon in 1980.
Was it? I know. Sorry to interrupt. We know the Blue Lagoon. Did they have a other body for her nude scenes?
No, I think she was 15. Was it her? She was shot fully nude. She just had to be fully nude for pretty much the entire duration of the filming of that one. Yeah. 1981, she's in Franco Zeffirelli's Endless Love. So 16 at this point. In 1983, she attended Princeton and got a degree in Romance languages. So she's an extremely intelligent woman. And it comes across in everything that you see her do. After she left college, it was difficult for her to get jobs, and we're going to sort of get into what that happened. She began acting again in the 90s and started appearing in comedy and sitcoms, and she is a funny actor. She's incredible at comedy, and it is incredible to see through the duration of her career how her career starts off being all about her appearance, all about her looks, all about the auctioning off of her sexuality. And it's amazing to see that, you know, in the 90s, when she becomes an adult, she finally gets to do the work that she wants to be doing. The present day, she has 2 daughters. She's an incredible mother. She obviously has her documentary. She's written books. She is an incredible spokesperson for postpartum depression. And she has been instrumental in the Me Too movement and the basically exposure of the realities of working in Hollywood. So Brooke Shields says about herself, I was just born with this face, and so I didn't want to think about it. I wanted to think about the things I could control, the things that could have happened without beauty. So she is someone whose entire career was essentially defined by her beauty, and she is so, like, it's incredible how she handles it. And obviously from that quote you can see that she's like, hey, I was just born beautiful. Like, that's not an achievement. That's not something that I worked hard for. Can we please focus on the things I worked hard for, like being a good actor, or the fact that I went to college and got a degree, and
you're clever, very clever.
Exactly. So I'm gonna sort of get into more of the film she was doing. So Pretty Baby, she plays the daughter of a prostitute, and in the film essentially her virginity is literally auctioned away, and this is in a time in America where feminism was popping off, and yet they're making films where an 11-year-old girl has to be nude. And Jean Kilbourne says about this that one of the responses of the dominant culture to the rise of feminism was the sexualization of little girls. So Jean Kilbourne is a filmmaker and activist, and basically what she means by this is that women were going, hey, like, I'm not gonna be your perfect, innocent, silent, pretty, like, you know, I am a woman, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And so all of a sudden you see the rise of, in mainstream media, it basically being like, okay, well, if women aren't gonna do what we want them to, then we're gonna make little girls portray themselves how we want. Not great. Brooke, throughout the entirety of this, is a child, and so she's quite ignorant, blissfully, to how she's being portrayed. Her mother said about Brooke, I think Brooke is like a work of art, and like any beautiful painting, I think the world should enjoy Brooke and view her. So she's described as the world's youngest sex symbol after starring in Pretty Baby. But it's interesting to note that the male director of Pretty Baby was completely celebrated for this film, while Brooke's mother was labelled as abusive for allowing her daughter to do the film. It is a difficult subject. Brooke very, very, very much wanted to do the film. She always felt like she was free to choose, but she wanted to do it. In Pretty Baby, she had her first kiss on camera, and she was screwing up her face and not really enjoying it until the male actor who was kissing her, who was an adult, told her, like, hey, this isn't real. It isn't real.
Yeah, but
there's an interview of Brooke as a child discussing Pretty Baby, and she says it was in good taste. It wasn't any porno movie. Again, she's a child talking about this. So I found throughout the documentary, when they show clips of Brooke being interviewed as a child, that interviewers are constantly asking Brooke extremely mature questions.
Isn't it so weird that why do you want to know half the things they were asking? Like, you're a grown-ass man.
In one interview, in regards to it kind of being known that Brooke's mother was a bit of an alcoholic, and obviously her being demonized in the media for allowing her daughter to do the film, an interviewer literally asks Brooke when she's like 12 years old, why do you love your mother?
Oh my
Like, he basically is just slandering her mother to her face on television and asking her why she loved her. Brooke's mother did suffer with alcoholism for her whole life. And I think Brooke says that she found film sets basically to be her safe space. She was constantly surrounded by people. There was routine. She had a job to do, whereas things at home for her weren't too great. Brooke's parents divorced when she was very, very young. She did have a very good relationship with her dad, but he was not involved with her career as a performer at all. She said that he just kind of pretended it didn't really exist, which is nice because it meant that when she was with her dad and her dad's kind of family, things were a bit more normal for her. Whereas life with her mum, as life with an alcoholic parent is, it was quite tumultuous. So film sets were her safe space, despite obviously the controversy of what she was doing. Someone said about Pretty Baby, is it a critique of the sexualization of young girls, or is it intentionally ambiguous? So people say, oh, it's a work of art, like the film is gorgeous, Brooke is incredible in it, but the line between the monetization of the auctioning of the virginity of a child and being an actual critique of the sexualization is very unclear. Pretty Baby is based on a book which was written by a woman about her experiences as a prostitute. However, obviously the male director took it and definitely put his own spin on it. So Brooke says they wanted to make it a reality show. They wanted to sell my actual sexual awakening. And this is something that you see in all of the films in Brooke's early career. They all tend to be basically selling her sexual awakening. And Brooke says, the irony was I wasn't in touch with any of my own sexuality. She had a religious upbringing, and the constant sexualization of her through other parties completely made her detach herself from her own sexuality. So it was like it didn't belong to her, basically. When she was 16, she starred in a Calvin Klein ad. Extremely sexualized. Extremely. It was literally banned. It had insane success. The ad was infamous. Girls everywhere wanted to buy these Calvin Klein jeans. She is 16 years old. You can watch the advert. There are clips of the advert in the documentary that obviously Brooke is fine showing. But yeah, I think the best way I can describe this is through another quote where Calvin Klein was being interviewed about his advert being banned. This is Calvin Klein himself. And the interview asks him, no ambivalence on your part on using very young teenagers? And he says, so I'm a bad boy. What do you want? Shut the fuck up, Calvin Klein. Calvin Klein, shut the fuck up. Yeah, so again, you can just see sexualized. There are millions and trillions of newspapers calling her the sexy child, the sexy baby,
and it's like you said, she's so
sexiest
clever.
child in the world. She is an incredible actor. She's incredibly intelligent, but
you wouldn't ever ask her anything about that. You just ask about what about her body and her looks.
When Brooke was age 9, she did a nude photo shoot with a family friend, which was published in a book that
not a very good family friend.
Didn't really go anywhere. In the documentary, they do show the photo, not like fully, but it is. Oh, it was extremely uncomfortable to see. To just be like, there is no innocence in that picture. No. Whoever took that picture, directed it, dressed her, came up with the idea. Yeah. There is nothing. Like, it is so sinister. Yeah. When Brooke was age 16, Gary Gross, the family friend, obviously Brooke is at the height of her career. Yeah. She's done Blue Lagoon. She's done Pretty Baby. She's done the Calvin Klein ad. Gary Gross decides to try to sell the photos of her naked as a child because he owns those photos. Brooke tries to sue him, takes him to court, and in this court trial where Brooke is literally just saying, hi, these pictures are of me as a child
9.
naked and I don't want them to be sold.
Yeah.
Brooke is subjected to horrendous questioning in this. Questions such as, you want to be known as a sex symbol, do you not? And she says, no. Other questions such as, you know what fornication is, don't you? And she says, yes. This trial should have just been about the paperwork.
Pictures, yeah, not her career right now.
Yep. She said, my public image is what was actually on trial, rather than just the bare legal bones of who owns these pictures and who can sell them, which it shouldn't be just about that. But regardless, her character should not have been brought to a question like this. She was 16 years old and she lost. She lost the case.
So he was able to sell a 9-year-old's nude photos?
Yeah. Yeah.
Would that not be done as
child pornography?
Yeah.
No.
How does that doesn't make sense?
No. Because she was modeling,
she had a public
because she was a professional, because I don't know. But it was found that Gary Gross did in fact own the photos and he would be allowed to sell them.
Fuck whoever was ever that judge. That you did so wrong. You did not do your job right.
Not only was the trial extremely traumatizing for Brooke, but she lost. And I think another example of that quite recently is Emily Ratajkowski.
Yeah.
She tried to, like, a photographer had some nude pictures of her from a very long time ago, and he wanted to monetize them somehow from her fame, and she didn't want him to. And it very much calls into the question with who has ownership of photos. Is the subject of the photos have any ownership over the photos, or does the photographer or whoever came up with the concept have ownership of the photos? And that is a very, very scary concept.
Yeah.
Again, I think it comes back to laws to protect people don't tend to be made until bad things start to happen. And I don't know the outcome of the Emily Ratajkowski trial, but it's interesting to note that the exact same situation is happening years and years and years in the future.
Yeah.
The other film I mentioned, Eternal Love, this film did have sex scenes in it. Brooke notes that this film set felt like an extremely unsafe environment for her. She felt as a child that in the film she was doing, they were repeatedly selling her virginity. The director of Eternal Love would twist her toes during film scenes to basically create pain that would then make her translate into ecstasy on her face. She said she didn't want to appear stupid or untalented, so she just dissociated. So she's being made as a 16-year-old virgin to film sex scenes. She's being physically hurt to induce a look of ecstasy, and she is concerned about, well, I didn't want to look like a bad actor, so she dissociates. And this affected Brooke later on in life, as she, acting, even though it is pretending, inducing a emotional state into your body, you will release the same hormones and chemicals into your body. So but if someone asks you to play a scene where you're extremely angry, you're screaming, your body will not recognize that you are faking it, essentially. Or if you're doing a scene where you're extremely emotionally traumatized and sad, your body doesn't recognize that it is fake. So your body will respond as if it's real. So Brooke is being conditioned to associate sex with the feeling of needing to just completely detach from herself and dissociate, which obviously is because she was playing a character, but that conditioning remained for her life. Obviously, this is all to say that intimacy coordinators on film sets are essential, and luckily now that's pretty much mandatory.
That's still very, very new, that.
But yeah, extremely new. Like even Emilia Clarke talks about the lack of intimacy coordinators on Game of Thrones. She was
people
treated
thought you didn't need it, but it's like, no, you actually
in
really
the beginning
do.
Exactly. Again, Blue Lagoon is the exact same. So this is a film that I have actually watched. Again, another film which basically you see her lose her virginity. And when she talks about Blue Lagoon, she does say that, it was an incredible experience. She got to live on this tropical island, and have this amazing time. But again, she was like 15. She was nude for the majority of the film. Yeah. And again, a film that sort of auctions off her virginity. So these 3 films, extremely defining in her career. And it also has to be said that for women in film, someone in the documentary says that the first thing you become known for, the first thing that gets you fame, that stays forever.
Yeah.
You will forever be known as that. So Brooke does these 3 films, is extremely sexualized. And then when she's older, when she decides to take a sort of bit of agency in her life and to get a bit of separation from her mother and her home life, Brooke decides to go to college. So as I say, she attended Princeton in 1983 to study Romance languages. So it was a difficult time. The reason I'm bringing this up, though, is because Brooke is then asked to write a book. And she wants to write a book that is kind of a tell-all about the reality of her childhood as an actor. But she doesn't have a lot of control over the book, and it basically becomes like a college survival guide. And in the book, Brooke mentions that she is a virgin. And all of a sudden, from this one book, Brooke turns from being known as the sexy child to basically being the face of virginity. It does a complete 180.
Yeah.
And that becomes everything she's known for. And in this Calvin Klein ad, everyone's like, oh, look at this sexy child, but also she's a virgin and she's the face of virginity and purity and good for her. And if Brooke Shields can wait, then I can wait. And again, Brooke has a tumultuous relationship with her sexuality. She is a young woman. She's, you know, developing feelings. She has boyfriends when she's at Princeton. And
she's being a human.
She's literally being a human being, but she's being a human being in a fish tank, being observed by everyone in America and beyond. This is something that Brooke works through. Obviously now she is happily married with 2 beautiful daughters, but it's incredible to see that you can do a whole 180, that you can be worshipped for being the sex child and then go to being the face of virginity. And then of course Brooke eventually wants to lose her virginity. She wants to have a real relationship. She wants to have real sexual interactions with people. And then all of a sudden there's the pressure, rather than it being like when she was younger, she felt the pressure to be this sex symbol because that's what people wanted from her. And then she's older and she wants to explore relationships with people. But this time instead, she's the face of virginity. Yeah. So there's this pressure on her.
That happens?
Basically her entire career, especially when she was younger, which obviously is insane because when you're a child, you should just be allowed to be a child. But her sexuality is completely publicized and observed, often inaccurately because you don't actually know what's going on in someone's life. So that's her early career. That's what happened. As I say, this is all happening in the 80s. Again, going back to the fact there were nude scenes of her in a film when she was 11, nude photos of her sold when she was 9 years old. Like, it's actually sickening. And unfortunately, when she was older, Brooke did suffer a sexual assault by a big name in the film industry. A classic situation of, I didn't know what to do. This was a man in a position of power who used assisting my career as a guise to get me alone and do fucking heinous things. Brooke speaks out about this in the Me Too movement. Brooke produces her own documentary, which obviously came out last year, and has now taken complete ownership of the things that happened to her as a child. And I think the most incredible thing to see from this, you know, woman with the most beautiful, intelligent mind is that she is not resentful. She comes across as so strong and well-spoken. And hey, let me just say, like, however you choose to respond to, whether it's strong, whether it's calm and beautiful and everything happens for a reason, or whether it's rage, fucking rage.
Yeah.
Both of those are fine. But it is incredible to see Brooke now is an amazing mother. She has very important discussions. You see at the end of the documentary, she asked her daughters if they'd want to watch the films that she was in, and they're like, no, like, I don't want to see that from you. And she's like, well, like it's part of my life, and like I don't regret it. And they're like, I know, but
she's a strong woman.
It makes her daughters sad to see that she was exploited like that. However, Brooke very much has everything happens for a reason, and she has been instrumental in, especially as a woman in film and as someone who was a girl in film, in dismantling the abuse of power and the exploitation of children in film. And that's Brooke. I feel like I spoke a lot about the bad, but this is an episode about children, and all of these terrible things that I was discussing happened to her as a child. And obviously it was incredible in the 90s, after going to college, when she starts acting again. She gets to be in sitcoms such as like Friends, and gets to do comedy, and starts to change her image around. When she has a baby, she becomes so outspoken about the realities of postpartum depression, which, let me just say, Tom Cruise,
fuck himself,
in the fucking Burn book, because Tom Cruise was a fucking dick about it. So fuck you, Tom Cruise. Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Fuck you, Tom Cruise, about what you said then.
You said it. I mean, you did apologise after.
Yes, he
but
did.
You still said
he
it.
He did apologise, but basically Brooke was outspoken about her experiences with postpartum depression and being medicated to help deal with it. And this man and
who's
Tom Cruise publicly contradicted her and was like, hey, maybe instead of taking antidepressants, you should just go for a walk and have a bubble bath type beat. So like,
thank you.
But Brooke didn't stop. She was like, I don't understand why this man is trying to tell me how to handle my postpartum. So she keeps being outspoken about it at a time when people really weren't speaking about it, and Tom does eventually apologise.
Well, it's like you said, it's hard for a mum to be like, I have these bad feelings about my kid, but if I say it out loud, then I don't want the kid to be taken away from me.
Especially about then. Like, obviously, there's a lot of discourse around mental health now, but back when she was talking about it, people just were not. Especially in regards to postpartum, when the expectation is when you become a mum, you should be the best, loving, most perfect mum ever, especially as a celebrity. And she was like, hey, actually, no, like, I was depressed. And it's like, thank you so much, because it was so inspiring to so many people. And obviously
Tom
I cannot
Cruise is like, actually
Tom Cruise needs to shut up. So yeah, and then obviously now she is just absolutely instrumental in the Me Too movement, and in her honesty and her candidness about the things that she went through will and have altered Hollywood and the film industry forever. And women like her, and actors like her who are being brave and speaking about their experiences, they are the ones who are making the industry a better and safer place for the future. And I sincerely hope, and I know, that her outspokenness will do that. And honestly, I cannot recommend the documentary.
I've watched it as well. It's very good.
It's so good.
Obviously not for the good reasons, but it's like you said, she's so open to it, and it is crazy.
Yes.
Like you were saying, how that was accepted not even 50 years ago.
Yeah,
like
crazy, absolutely insane.
Well, thank you, Jordan.
You're so welcome. I did my homework.
Now my time for my homework.
Let's go.
I will be talking about Drew Barrymore. So like my sources are the Drew Barrymore show, Miss Mojo.
We love Miss Mojo. You're watching.
Deep Dive, and I'm pretty sure that is the majority of it.
Yeah, we got sources.
We got sources.
We did our homework.
I'm just gonna open my book. So yeah, I'm just gonna go into like how she started acting, then obviously going into how Drew really did get into drugs and alcohol at a very young age.
Yeah,
And how
I think that's another thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
That, like, children are so Hollywood and acting and everything. Hey, there's drugs, there's alcohol, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's unavoidable, especially
And
back then. And if you were a child, hey, people would be doing it around you.
they loved it. They're
Think
like,
about
oh, look at this kid.
Demi Lovato.
Well,
That
all I'm saying is I've got an interview
Oh.
with Drew Barrymore and Demi Lovato and Jeanette McCurdy and Brooke Shields.
Incredible. I'm
So I'm going to be
shut
talking about
up.
that as well.
Hey, I'm gonna
Hey, I'm going to be quiet for a second.
I'm gonna be shutting up.
But also like her relationship with her mum, how they went to Studio 54 together, which is a whole Hollywood thing, and where she is now, and how she recovered from that, and how she's just so like positive now. Like you always see her, and she's just so grateful for everything in her life. But yeah, same kind of with Brooke Shields. She started 11 months. She was in a dog commercial.
Nice.
Yeah. And then...
Damn, we really missed the boat at
I
11
know,
months.
damn.
What were you doing at 11 months?
Sucking on my mum's nipple.
I
actually don't know if I was.
Too.
Oh, okay. Let's leave Julie out of this one.
Sorry, Julie. She's not listening.
Yeah, when she was 7, she became a movie star. Yeah, so she auditioned for Steven Spielberg at the age of 7 for Poltergeist, saying that she lied her face off and told him that she was in a rock and roll band and as a drummer, and that she loved to cook.
Yeah, girl.
Just going all these ways to try and get into the role.
Mm-hmm.
But
hey, yeah, sorry. Sometimes you have to lie.
yeah,
Let me just say, if you have to do a little lie to get a job.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, the director of the Poltergeist, Toby Whopper, if I wrote that down, I think it's Whopper, wasn't there that day, but Stephen was, and he said to Drew, "You're not right for this, but I am doing another movie, This Boy's Life," which was then later to become E.T., which Drew Barrymore is known for. I was also, when I was doing the research, they said she would speak to E.T. off screen, and the people who would like do controlling of it would still move him. So Drew thought it was obviously real and she would have conversations with him. So yeah, I know. How lovely is that? So there was a whole like rundown of her family are loads of actors. The Barrymores come from a line of actors. They also come of a line of alcoholism. So her mum was alcoholic, her dad was alcoholic, but her dad was an actor. And it's that same situation. Oh, to save the marriage, let's have a kid. So that was
don't do that.
Yeah, so that's how Drew became to be. And her mum did say while she was pregnant with Drew, he did beat her. So then, even before Drew was born, there was so much going on in the household.
Yeah.
I think she did move out before Drew was born as well. But every time she would be on like a talk show host, they'd make the joke about it, making this whole like Barrymore family joke that they're all alcoholic. Like one time they're like, "Oh, do you want a drink of milk?" And then she went, "Milk, I'm a Barrymore. Get me a drink and make it a double." It's like
yeah.
Okay,
And that's obviously like it's kind of scripted. Like a child's not just gonna say that,
no,
is
of
it?
course,
It's like
yeah.
some like
She's
publicist
got no
is,
like no front teeth. She's like a Barrymore. She's like talking like that. Yeah,
They're just babies.
I know. But yeah, after a success of E.T., her mum started taking her out to clubs, taking her to Studio 54, which was a massive thing for Hollywood back in that time. Like you think of any celebrity, they've all been there.
Yeah.
Which is known for like crazy parties, and her mum would start to leave Drew by herself in the club at 7.
Insane.
So yes, when she was like turning...
Sorry, what are these bouncers doing?
I know. But I think Drew was saying like people loved it because they're like, oh my god, why is there a kid here?
Yeah.
There's a kid here. Do you
and
want to do a
this is
shot?
a kid from fucking E.T.
Yeah. Do you want to do a shot?
God.
And they go, yeah. They're like, oh my god, this is fun. They
Yeah.
like obviously myself if I saw a kid in a club, I'm like, why is there
I'd
a
be
kid
like,
here?
999.
Yeah.
Hello.
And that's when she started doing alcohol. Was at the age of 8.
Oh my god.
She also said she was taking a lot of alcohol and during this time to help with the stress. She's 8 and she's stressing already. Like that's crazy. And she was saying how her mum wouldn't let her have sugar, and this is a quote from her.
Oh my god, no sugar, but you can do shots
no,
in
literally.
the club.
So this is a quote from Drew. My mum wouldn't let me eat sugar. Studio 54 and weed and alcohol, totally fine. But don't touch that sugar. And I did. And I snuck chocolate into the closet. All the other habits were out in the open. But the chocolate was in the closet. But the sugar was in the closet thing.
Yeah.
Literally, I would hide the chocolate in a box in my closet.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Also, yeah, worth noting that at this time, like, especially, this is like, you know, Drew was huge in the 90s. The 90s was like peak time for the like heroin chic, Kate Moss, nothing tastes better than being skinny. Like,
but
you
not
had to
at
be
9.
fucking thin. Well, probably also at 9. Like,
Yeah.
I imagined, you know, if she was in this celebrity bubble, you know, if you had any exposure to media at that time, you would be seeing the articles like best and worst bikini bodies and shit like that. Like, it was a rough time to be a lady.
But yeah, so then from 9 to 10, she took a break. Probably because,
so nice.
Yeah, she was taking so much alcohol. She obviously, her mental health was all declining at this point. And at age 11, she booked Babes in the Toyland. I also want to say I've not watched most of these ones. I've more or less watched Drew's later movies when she's older, and she actually has the choice of being in it.
Yeah, I think it was the same with Brooke's movies. I kind of forgot to mention that, like, I didn't rewatch Blue Lagoon, but at the time when I watched Blue Lagoon, I actually loved it.
Yeah.
But I was a 15-year-old watching another 15-year-old, you know, explore a sexual awakening, which, because at the time I was the same age, I think I was kind of like, oh, look, it's so nice to see, like, someone like me in a film. And then you get older and you're like, actually, you could you could have told that story with an older actor. Like, you know, nowadays, shit like Euphoria, you've got very dark, intense, like, themes and storylines that involve sex and drugs and alcohol, but the actors portraying the characters are like 25 because they are equipped to deal with telling the stories. You do not need to show an actual teenager going through those things. And obviously, having heard all the things about Brooke's films, I was like, hey, I actually don't want to watch these. Like, I'm happy to just hear about it. I don't need to see the exploitation for myself.
It's also a lot of films Drew did when she was a bit younger. She didn't want to do most of them. Her mum made her do them.
Interesting, because with Brooke, she wanted to. And she's still, to a degree, quite proud of them. Yeah,
well, I think it's also Drew made the money. Like we were talking at the start of the episode. So she was bringing in that money.
And that's when, choice starts to not really be choice. Is if you're the breadwinner in the family. If it's like, well, if you don't make this money, how are we going to have a house or food or alcohol? Then it becomes like, oh, it is a choice. But also I know if I don't do
it's like, well, I've got a new car.
Money.
So like I have to carry on if I want to have these luxuries. Then she got another film, See You in the Morning. Again, her mum got it her because she was her manager at this point. And again, she just didn't want to do it, but her mum forced her. Then she was saying she was on a night out when she was 13 and she got very, very drunk. She was past her curfew. And she rang her mum telling her that she wanted to get her out the house. She was like done with her mum's antics. Like forcing her to do all these roles that she didn't want to do. Like when she got home, she like got a beer from the fridge. It was a screaming match.
13 as well.
I know. And then she went into her room and she heard her mum ring someone. She didn't know who they were ringing, and this is when she went into rehab.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so 13, she was in rehab. In her talk show, she goes to the place that she went to rehab, and this was a quote from her, like, once you go through those doors, you do not come out. I was there for a year and a half and I hated it. I kicked and screamed. 1 minute you're at a movie premiere and clubbing, then the next minute you're in a full-blown institution with barbed wire everywhere and you can't get out.
And that is, like, your childhood is, you know, you only get one childhood. That's a year and a half that she lost. Like, a year and a half, like, you know, going from, you know, being like a 13-year-old to a 15-and-a-half-year-old. Like, that chunk of your life just being gone.
She said, like, because she says she, like, obviously hated it, but she also is happy it happened as well. Not in the way it was done, but she knew she needed help and she wouldn't have got it.
Yeah.
And then there was a lady called Betty who was the head of the clinic. Let's just say Betty was a bitch. Okay? Because while she was in rehab, her granddad died. And she was very close to her granddad. And then Betty told her, deal with it, Drew. Okay. She couldn't leave the rehab facility to go to her granddad's funeral.
Me and my homies hate Betty.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Betty.
And then her mum would come and visit her in rehab, but just pass over scripts to her whilst in rehab.
Oh, okay.
I know. And then there was another quote from Drew about all this, like when she was growing up, of not really wanting to do acting. She was like, sometimes I don't want to work. I just want to be a little girl. I just want to be an ordinary Drew and not Drew Barrymore.
That is
I know.
heartbreaking.
But yeah, so 9 years old, it was her first drink. 10, smoking weed. 11, coke. 13, the institution.
Jeez.
Yeah, and again, as much as she hated it, she said it really did help her. 16, sober. Again, she was sober, she wasn't sober. It was a hard one because she got out, but then she would go out with her friends. She said that she did relapse now and then, but it wasn't as intense as it was before she went into rehab.
Yeah.
Then when she was going, she did take a bit of a break from acting, and then she opened her own film company with her friend Nancy Javonen.
Yeah.
I think I'm saying that right. Sorry if I'm not. In 1995, called Flower Films, and you would have heard these films they've created: Never Been Kissed, Charlie's Angels, Donnie Darko, then Santa Clarita Diet. Yeah, that's the new one that was out in 2017 till 2019. So they created some good stuff, because I remember watching Never Been Kissed. I love that film.
I haven't seen that.
You've never watched it?
No.
It's so good. I actually really like it.
I haven't seen. What we've learned from today is I just haven't.
Jordan
seen
hasn't watched any
film.
films.
What the fuck?
But I'm gonna go into the interviews that in her TV show that she has now,
Yeah.
where there's a few people she does relate with. So the first interview I'm going to talk about was her and Demi Lovato on being a child actor.
I love watching Drew Barrymore interview people.
She's
up
and personal. She makes you feel
barefoot
welcome
on the floor, head resting on your leg,
holding your hands.
I just want to say, that's exactly what it's like if you come on our podcast. We'll hold your hand, we'll stroke your
Jordan
hair.
will. I won't. Okay, I can't.
Megan will be shaking in the corner.
Intimacy. But yeah, this is from Drew when she was speaking to Demi Lovato. She was like, I think in our weird tragedy of life, you grow up so fast and you're in these adult jobs, and yet you're not an adult, but you're hanging out with other kids sometimes and working with them, but your peers aren't kids.
Yeah.
And then also like with them bringing money in, paying the rent, because they're the ones working. So that's what her and Demi Lovato were bonding about, that they had to be the breadwinners. They had to bring that money in, or they were fucked, more or less.
Yeah.
And then when they got older, that's when they started to rebel towards their parents, because they were like, well, even though I'm 14, I'm in my stage, I'm 20.
Yeah, it's a horrible balance of you don't get to properly be a child, but that doesn't mean that you're an adult.
Because like
Demi
Demi started
weird in between.
Because Demi started acting at age what?
Excuse me?
Demi started acting at the age of 8 on Barney and Friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were just like bonding on being child actors, and yeah, when it's like your parents are so relying on you and that pressure, that it's hard to be a kid.
Again, yeah, that's where the element of choice sort of leaves the room.
And especially the people who are on set with you, if there's no other kids, then yeah. Another interview was with Jeanette McCurdy, and that they were talking about the relationship with mothers. Yeah. Obviously, Jeanette McCurdy's mother, that's another story that could go down, but
yeah, I think we've heard of the book.
Yeah. So her book of
I'm glad my mom died.
Exactly.
And hey, fair enough. Fair enough.
And this is I'm gonna go between the two of, so Jeanette asked like Drew, like, guilt, do you think it's warranted guilt or unwarranted with their relationship between the mum? And Drew goes, I think when it comes to our mums, we want it so badly to have their relationship that I can't even say society says we're supposed to have. It is nature, it is nurture, it's a evolution. And Drew during this interview was learning from Jeanette, getting advice from the same trauma they have and share.
That's nice.
So yeah, Jeanette was just talking about how she was obviously being a kid, she was denial and innocent.
Yeah.
And she didn't really know what was good and bad. and the trauma between their parents and the abusive relationship obviously then gets an effect on you when you get a bit older.
Of course.
And again, that's what they were relating on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it was like, I think Jeanette McCurdy's mum was more manipulative than Drew's.
It was very snide with Jeanette McCurdy's, wasn't it? Like, it wasn't obvious.
But all they wanted was love from their mums.
Of course.
But to a certain extent, it's like, how much can you do? You're literally bringing the money in, but that's not enough.
Yeah.
And then again, another interview with Brooke Shields reflecting on their complicated childhoods.
Yeah, and Brooke Shields as well. Like, with her relationship with her mother, like, they were extremely, extremely, extremely close. Like, it was just her and her mum, and they were together all the time. Yeah. But, of course, Brooke's mother suffered immensely with alcoholism, and when Brooke finally decided, like, oh, I want to go to college, I want to be an adult, you know, she says, like, I thought the separation would kill her. Yeah. Like, she
and why you
felt
should not
responsible,
be feeling
for her mum's safety and well-being, which obviously it should be the other way around. But, you know, with alcoholism is a vicious disease, essentially, and it, you know, completely revokes a child's right to be the one being nurtured and looked after.
Because they were just speaking how they started so young, and Brooke Shields said to Drew, because obviously it's, again, they can relate to each other. Trauma. They were saying, like, we both had mothers and we needed to navigate and keep alive and take care of, and they were broken and they were scared and broken, and then they had these babies that come alive and it changes their whole life, but it doesn't heal them. Even though they think, again, oh, if I have a baby, I feel so much better. Yeah. And then they obviously put all that trauma onto the child. And they were also talking about how their mums were in a lot of their interviews together. Yeah. Like, it wasn't just that their mum were always by their sides. And again, it was that ownership of, this is my child, I am their manager.
Yeah, like when Brooke's mum, that she describes her as, well, I see Brooke as a work of art. Yeah. And it's like, that's nice, she's also your baby.
And then they were talking about Drew said something like, did your mum also date all of your exes? And I don't think Brooke was like, okay, that didn't actually happen for me, but Drew was like, yeah, so if I had an ex-boyfriend, then my mum would start to date them, or we would getting off the same people. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I know. But I think, like, I just think with Drew Barrymore, with her talk show as well, like we were saying, she's so open with her guests, and having guests like that where you can relate to them, as is something you don't want to be a thing where you can relate with them.
It's amazing to see two people with similar trauma. Like, it's very clear on the show. I think that it's quite a healing experience for both Drew and the people she interviews, and it's because, you know, she does do it with such care and compassion.
And Drew does have a broken marriage, and she says she I think she's been married twice or something. She went, I just don't think marriage is for me. Like,
that's fair.
Yeah, she's obviously they're still on good terms, and she's got 2 kids, I think. Let me get that up a little bit. So Drew also has 2 kids. And yeah, she's obviously like an amazing mum. I think her and Brooke had that conversation on the show of, they know what their parents did. They would never repeat that, and they want to just like nurture and nature them in the best way possible. Yeah.
I think, you know, with a lot of people who do have difficult relationships with their parents, you know, it can go one of 2 ways. You do get, you know, there's a lot of generational trauma, there are like circles of violence, or what you do is you learn and you are better, and you use your experiences to be the parent that you wish you had. And I think with both of these women, you can very much see that is what they've done. And yeah, you know, it's incredible to see 2 women really take agency over the things that happen to them.
They also spoke about the Me Too movement, and Drew was saying when it was first started, she went, I don't know if I can join in, because like, even though I was a kid, I was doing it. But I know I shouldn't have been doing it, but I had to be doing it.
Yeah, was it Drew Barrymore as well that said, like, and if I start talking about it, where do I stop?
Yeah.
Because I can't just be like, oh, this one bad thing happened to me. It's like, well, if I start unpacking this one thing, then what about this other thing? And what about this? And what about this? And what about this? And, you know, with Brooke and Drew, like, it's not just, there's not one defining thing that happened in their career that was wrong. There's so many little things and things that no one questioned at the time. And, you know, a lot of things can happen to people, and at the time you think it's fine. Like, you know, Brooke says that film sets were her safe space, that she loved being on them, she loved the routine, she loved doing the acting. But then you get older and you go, well, did anyone...
Well, it was like Drew being on set on ET and her best friend was a robot. But she didn't know that because that's why she could talk to them. I also think Steven Spielberg became her godfather as well. She asked him if he could be her godfather. I know, imagine Steven Spielberg being your godfather.
I would have asked E.T.
Hey! I've never actually watched E.T.
I haven't watched it for years and years and years.
I thought you were about to say you haven't watched it. Like, yeah, Jordan, we know you've not fucking watched anything.
I have watched a film in my life.
One film, Twilight.
Oh my god, yeah.
Actually, I've watched a series.
Megan and I made like a Spotify blend today.
Oh yeah, how have we
like,
not mentioned this?
Analyzes your music taste compatibility and like makes a playlist for you made up of songs that like you both like or like vibes that you both like. And we got a 91% match on our music taste, which I was very impressed by. I was surprised.
It's like we're best friends.
And then it said the song that brings you together is Rosalind by Bon Iver, which is
in Twilight.
Hey,
it's a good fucking song,
and
bro.
that is the song that brings us together.
Oh, when you
okay, right.
Sorry, I thought I had to sing it so you guys knew.
That, by the way, that was Bon Iver.
Get out the room. We've not got a third.
Come on, we got a podcast, dude. Get out, Bon Iver. Okay, so
to wrap it all up.
You know, it's an interesting.
Don't drink, kids. That's what we've learned.
Don't let kids have alcohol. But no, Hollywood and the film industry. Yeah, it is a, you know, people. Hopefully, most of the time, people are actors because it's what they love. Like it is a labor of love. It sings something that you're passionate about. Like we said in the beginning, films with children in have always existed. They are always going to audition. Children should be allowed to make art and tell beautiful stories.
And I also think it's more obvious now if it's the kid that wants to act or if it's the parents wanting the kid to act.
Yeah, because as we say, you know, as time has progressed, these legislations have changed, and as people are outspoken about what they go through, it becomes easier for everyone to recognize the signs, to become more vigilant. Yeah. And I think it is, you know, it is everyone's job to protect these children, like in any capacity. If you are working with a child, you know, you have to look out for them. You have to make sure that they are protected, that they're being nurtured, and that they're just having a great time. Because, you know, being an actor as a child, getting these incredible experiences as a child, you know, it could and it should be the most incredible time in a child's life.
But obviously, if the child is only surrounded by adults, I think that's where it kind of becomes a problem.
Let children be children.
Yeah.
Let children be children.
Because obviously, what can you talk about with a kid that you can relate with?
I mean, I really like Pokemon. So I can talk to children about Pokemon.
Okay. Well, if you want to do that, Jordan, you can. But anyway, let's carrying on.
I'm like, what do you mean we can't relate with children?
Oh, we could talk to them. We need to tell people to watch Blue Eye Samurai. No, guys, you don't.
Megan is chewing on the sofa right
when
now.
I think of Mizu, I'm like,
we said yesterday we don't know how we haven't spoken about Blue Eye Samurai yet. We are obsessed.
It's not even obsession. It's like it's
not even obsession. It's my religion.
It's our Roman Empire.
It is our Roman Empire. It is
If you've
fucking
not
incredible.
watched
The
it,
animation, the voice acting,
the
story.
My girlfriend is in it. She's really sexy. She's got really nice boobies.
And she's not a child actor, just to be clear.
Yeah, she's. Thank you for clarifying.
Everyone's an adult. Everyone's an adult. But yeah, so to round off the episode, Brooke Shields and Drew Barrymore, incredible women.
Yeah.
Please watch their shows. Please watch their documentaries. Watch the things that they have put out with their voices, which is them taking agency over what they've done. Hey, I don't think we need to be watching Pretty Baby. No one needs to be watching Pretty Baby, the film. Pretty Baby, the documentary, go and watch it. And also go and watch Blue Eye Samurai if you want to be our friend. Because I'm starting to cull people, and if you haven't watched
I've watched the first
next.
episode 4 times.
Yeah, I've watched the whole thing through twice.
Yeah, same.
And then I've read fan fiction.
We were hungover watching it for the second time.
Yeah, that was the time I was hungover
and
for 3 days, and I just didn't leave Megan's house.
Jordan burped and I farted, and we looked at each other and went, this is the life.
We should start a podcast. No, I'm kidding. We'd already done it by that point. And our podcast is out in the world.
And you guys are listening to it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Was that ADHD near the end of this episode?
Mayhaps. So yeah.
Mayhaps!
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. Obviously, it was a heavy one.
Yeah.
But, the industry that this podcast is about is not a perfect one. It's a far from perfect one.
Yeah.
And, by telling these stories and sharing the voices of people who are speaking out against exploitation, we help. Well, everyone helps, and we want to help to make the industry a better and safer place.
Yes.
Mwah.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for listening to Acting Up with Megan Alderson and Jordan Skidmore. You can find the podcast on all social medias as at Acting Up the Podcast. You can find me as at jordan.skids on Instagram, and you can find Megan as I'm going to get this right. Megan _Alderson _, and you spell Alderson with an A.
Yes,
Our
please.
artwork is by Jules, who is the wonderful at those.who_try on Instagram. If you want to send us an email, we would love to have a listener write in. Megan, shut the fuck up. We have an email which is I sounded like Patrick from SpongeBob. Hey, SpongeBob. No one's gonna email.
Just think of Patrick right now in the fishnets and a high boots.
Stop it. I'm going to turn off Megan's microphone in a minute. If you want to email us about literally fucking anything, we'll read it on the podcast. Our email address is actingupthepodcast@gmail.com.
Hey, SpongeBob.
Thank you. Bye.